The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Welcome everyone to Exit Team Nashua. My name's Jessie and I will be your host this evening. Tonight in the studio we have my good friend Jacob. Jacob, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
It's really good to have you
good
here.
Good to be here.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge the fact that it is my birthday and
so do I get to sing?
You don't get to sing.
Okay.
And also I haven't been in the studio for a couple of months. So I'm super excited to be here and to be able to do my service work with you today on my birthday. So thanks for coming. And I'm really excited for the message that you have to share with us. So why don't you tell us about Jacob, where you're from, what it was like growing up for you?
Sure. It's really good to be here. Thank you for asking me. I know we've tried this a few times and finally we're here sitting together.
Yes.
Gosh, for me, I grew up in a big family, 4 brothers, 2 sisters. My mom and dad were born-again Christians, so we lived in the church, went to the church. It was a big part of our lives. Mm-hmm. Lots of love, lots of praying, never a dull moment, always something to do, always lots of fun. I was a pretty happy kid up until about around the age of maybe 8 or 9. And I guess for me, the biggest issue I struggled with as a kid was I always just felt very alone, very invisible, always on the outside. Mm-hmm. I was a middle child, always trying to make sure I was seen. It was just a big struggle for me. I really, really struggled in that. Just that whole battle of just trying to find myself in this big, large family. But I did have lots of love. My parents would put us to bed and kiss us goodnight and tell us that they loved us, and we would pray, and it was always a big part of our lives. So I really had everything I needed. I didn't necessarily have everything I wanted. We used to have this snowmobile that we would strap together with bungee cords, and every 12th pull on the engine, we would be able to ride it, you know?
So that whip around awesome. The yard, tie sleds.
Yes. Bigger through the woods.
Yeah, you'd hit a tree.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we had fun as kids. Growing up for me, I always felt like I was different. Mm-hmm. I always felt like I was screaming on the inside and nobody heard me. Mm-hmm. And so as I got older.
So just let me stop you real quick. So did you know that you felt like that then?
Yeah, my parents put us through counseling as kids. Mm-hmm. Our families we had so many different personalities, so we started doing family counseling at a young age.
Okay.
Brothers beating each other up, all that kind of stuff. And I remember standing in a room with my whole family, bawling my eyes out, saying how much I felt invisible. Mm. I just always felt like I wasn't seen, except the crazy part about it was I was the loudest person in the family. Mm. I was always on stage. I was always performing. I mean, from a very young age, I started doing professional theater at 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So I was the loudest one in the family, and yet I always felt invisible. Mm-hmm. And I guess that was my first addiction. I craved that attention.
Yeah.
I needed to be noticed. I needed to feel special. I needed to have a purpose, and so it's something that I just yearned for and just went after, and theater gave that to me. Mm-hmm. As a performer, I just dove right into it from 10 years old up into my high school years. All I did was theater, performing in shows, professional theater.
You're so lucky that you had that to pour your heart into then, right?
Yeah, it was a great escape.
I mean, like you said, maybe it was seeking validation.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, that's a healthy outlet for that.
It was, and it was an opportunity for me to be anybody I wanted to be.
Right.
I could be anyone, and I could escape that, restless, irritable discontentness inside of me. I could become a star, you know, and I was told by everybody in my life that I was going to be this star when I grew up and I was going to be famous and I was going to change the world with my singing. And, you know, we'll get to that later. It didn't necessarily happen that way, but
Yeah, I wonder if there was a fair amount of like rejection in that also.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
Right.
You know, rejection too from the community.
Right.
You know, the minute I stopped playing sports, the minute I stopped hanging out with the guys, I became the faggot, excuse my French, but I became the gay boy, you know, and I was bullied for, you know, being different and being in music and not playing sports, you know, and as I got older, I realized that's who I was,
Right.
you know, and that was another identity of who I had to be and overcome, you know, coming out as, you know, a young kid. I was 15 when I came out, you know, and that was a huge battle that I struggled with,
Right.
you know, but the singing part of me was this amazing shine that I had in my life. And even the bullies in school were impressed by that,
Right.
you know, and so it gave me an identity,
Right.
and it became my entire identity. Like everything was Jacob the singer and Jacob the performer, and I didn't know who I was other than that. And so I just dove into that, and just that became my ultimate addiction, you know, and that seeking that fame and attention. And I was really good. You know, I was really good at it. And so like I remember sitting in school and this parent came up to me at graduation and she said that her son, he would never say this to me, but my performing was one of the things he'd never forget. And this was a kid who bullied me in school. You know, one of the hockey players always bullying me. And but to have that validation from someone who I thought didn't like me for who I was, you know, was huge. And so I just grabbed a hold of that and it became everything that I was, you know, and it saved my life for a while.
Right.
You know?
It also taught you though to like use a mask, right? And to hide behind the mask, and that you could earn people's validation, and
I could always look happy, and I could always be positive and just hide behind that, you know? You know, and when I left high school and I moved out into the big world and went out to be a star and lived in New York and San Francisco and all these big cities, I didn't perform anymore. I had nothing to identify to,
right?
You know, and I fell into the club scene. I was on this reality TV show.
Oh yeah, tell us about this.
So the
what
show,
year is this?
This is like 2001. I was 18 years old. Well, no, I just turned 19. I graduated from high school and I told everybody I was leaving New Hampshire. I was going to become famous. I was going to be a star. I moved to Boston and I got on this reality show that was like an internet TV reality show. John Garabedian from Total Request Live. I don't know if you ever heard of that, from Boston, like radio, Kiss 108. He was putting on this show. So I got onto this show and basically I got paid to party, paid to perform, and paid to argue with people in my apartment.
Right.
Yeah, and that was the life. So of
how
course,
long was that?
What?
How long was that?
Oh, so that was like I think it was like an 8-month period. It wasn't very long.
I mean, it's a fair amount of time to be living on this reality TV show.
Sure. So like I had no identity, right? So I thought like my identity was performing, but I yearned so badly to want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to be a part of a community. I was bullied my whole life, you know, being gay and out and coming out and stuff. So I knew if I moved to the city and I found this gay community, I'd live this life and I'd find this community. And I found drugs and I found alcohol and I found partying, you know, and I found a lot of sex and I found all these things. And in the blink of an eye, all that stuff that was fun and good became what controlled me, and it became my identity.
Right.
You know, as a kid, I was severely abused by my music teacher. And that part of me that I never faced and I never was willing to look at followed me like a dark shadow into my adult life. You know, and that pain and that agony and all that stuff, basically I began to bury with drugs and alcohol. You know, I found ecstasy and cocaine, crystal meth. It started off with drinking. You know, my friends that were older than me, they'd sneak me drinks at the bars. You know, I was 18, so I wasn't allowed to drink, but they'd sneak me drinks. Then they'd start giving me ecstasy. And, you know, and it was a lot of fun for a long time. And then one day I was living in San Francisco. I was probably 21, 22 years old. Me and my friends were in Vegas. I was there to see Celine Dion. If that ain't gay, I don't know what is. My parents bought me tickets. We went to Vegas. We were doing mushrooms, and I was in the shower, and I fell to my knees in tears, and I begged for my mother. And it was the first time in my life I felt like I had no control over what was going on in my life anymore. You know, and the ups and downs, like I'd get sober for a while, you know, off the hard stuff, and I'd feel like, okay, I got this. I got the control. And then it would get real, real bad again. You know, and that progression just so quick, and I'd jump from city to city. I'd go from San Francisco to New York, back to Boston, back home, you know, and just this vicious cycle. Finally moved home, and I got sober off the hard stuff. You know, I stopped smoking meth. I stopped doing coke for a while. I worked at a bar, and I entered into the New Hampshire Idol competition. Thinking, you know, this is what's going to do it. This is going to fix me. You know, I'm going to conquer my dreams and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing anything really. I did drink and probably smoked pot, but I was okay. You know, I was able to maintain that, you know, and I won this big competition and I signed a record deal and I moved back to New York and I was like, I got this. 3 months into living in New York, it was right back to what it was, you know, 10 times worse. You know, working in a bar, all of my money went to drugs. I was paying my rent by prostituting myself. You know, just that vicious cycle, you know. And every time it got real, real bad, I'd call up the people in my life who I loved, and I'd manipulate them, and I'd cry to them, and I believed it so much, you know, that I was gonna stop, and I wasn't gonna keep doing it, you know, and I was just gonna give it up, and I was gonna come home, and you know, I needed help, and I needed people to just take me in, and I was just this professional victim, you know, and I had my siblings telling me that I needed to learn to love myself, and that all the things that happened to me, like that's why I was doing what I was doing, and all of that trauma in my life became my excuse to live this horrific lifestyle, you know, and the choices I was making and the people I was hanging out with, I was just so convinced that it was all because of what happened to me as a kid, all because God didn't love me, you know, and I was so angry at the world and so broken, and yet I still thought I didn't have a problem. I still thought that I was just struggling, you know. So I did individual counseling, I did group counseling, but I never really found AA until many years later, you know. I was living at my mom's house, and she came home one day and she knew something was wrong. She had finally, you know, let me move in with her, and she knew something was up, and I looked at her and I was in tears and I said, I need to go back to rehab. So I went into the Plymouth house in Plymouth, New Hampshire, which is a great facility.
Yeah,
and
I've heard a lot of people.
Hardcore
My
12
sponsor
steps.
went there. Yeah.
Yep. Hardcore 12 steps. They take you through the first 7 steps, then they move you up to a sober house. I moved up to a sober house. I was in a sober house doing the work. I got a great job at a hotel down there doing valet at the Press Hotel. 2 months into my sobriety, I got a call from my mom saying an article was coming out in the newspaper and I was being indicted for 4 felonies. She asked me if it was true. And I don't know, it was like God took control of my mouth and he was like, you need to tell your truth. And I told my truth. You know, I admitted to everything that had happened. My sober house kicked me out. My job fired me. I was homeless and had no job, living in my car, had nowhere to go. And I prayed and I asked God to just give me help, you know, and to keep me sober. Because all I wanted to do was go to Boston and escape. Escape the pain I wanted to use. I just wanted to just escape. And I didn't. And that day forward, I started hitting 3 meetings a day. A friend of mine let me move down to the Seacoast area, which is where I met you, in the Seacoast area. Got a job, was fired from that job for my criminal history. Got another job, was fired from that job, you know, and just kept hitting meetings. Started taking on service work. Had like 3 coffee jobs. I'd show up 30 minutes early. I'd leave 30 minutes late. I got a sponsor, a male sponsor, a sponsor I thought I'd never have. I swore I could never have a male sponsor because of what I went through as a kid. And at 19 months sober, I went to jail. You know, I went to jail for 6 months. They dropped the felony charges down to 3 misdemeanors. And it was all because of the program. All because of the work I did, the foundation that I built. All because I showed up and told my truth, you know, even when I didn't want to.
Right.
You know, I've had a lot of walls that I've run into. You know, I was working in recovery for a while and I was let go from my recovery job because of my criminal history. You know, I'm not going to mention, you know, what happened really further than that, but I thought that's what I was meant to do.
Right.
I thought I was meant to help people and work in recovery. And what I've learned today is I can still help people. I can still reach out. I can still be there. I can still tell my truth. It may not be doing it for a living.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that can't be a part of my story down the road. There have been moments where I've been angry and I've wanted to give up and I've wanted to just walk away, but I haven't. You know, I continue to show up even when I don't want to. I've had some pretty deep lulls. You know, right now my recovery is not the best as it could be, but I'm able to acknowledge that. You know, I'm able to show up even when I don't want to. I'm in a committed, loving relationship, which is something I never thought I'd have. I'm working with an incredible band. I'm back doing music. I'm back on a show in November. I'm in theater again.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
it's nothing crazy, but it's
Yeah.
doing what I love to do.
Right.
You know, I really thought that my music was gonna heal the world.
Right.
You know, and I had this huge ego that I was gonna be the next Frank Sinatra and I was gonna change and revolutionise everything. You know?
Right.
And it was all ego, you
Right.
know. And today my music touches people's lives the way it's supposed to. You know, I sing at church every week. You know, and I show up. Right now I've got people in my life who I love and I'm close to and who are really, really struggling. You know, I've got 2 siblings in treatment and I'm able to show up for them when they showed up for me in my life, you know, and I was never able to do that in the past. You know, it was all about me and how uncomfortable I was. And if I was uncomfortable, it was your fault and you had to deal with it. You know, today when I am uncomfortable, I can take a breath and say, okay, why are you uncomfortable? What is it about you that you're dealing with? You know, and it's all because of the program.
Right.
You know, going and showing up at AA. You know, I'm looking for a new sponsor. I've had 2 sponsors drop me, which is awesome.
That's
But,
always fun.
You know, well, you know, I mean,
happens.
I don't always do the work like I'm supposed to. But I think the difference in my life today is I can actually say that out loud and I can be truthful about that. And I never used to be able to be truthful about that in the past.
Right.
All the stuff I've been through. I mean, I was sitting in a jail cell with cellmates who were using meth, sitting next to me, and I was able to stay sober. I was sitting in a jail cell crying to my sponsor on the phone because I was unhappy and I didn't want to be there and I was uncomfortable. And he said to me, "Shut up. You're not the victim. You did something wrong." And I was able to hear that, you know, and I was able to let go of that stuff. You know, and today I don't have to be a victim. You know, that was a big part of my identity. You know, rightfully so to some extent, but, you know, now as a sober, you know, person who struggles with, you know, substance abuse disorder, you know, and faces that kind of stuff. Like today, I can fess up and take responsibility. And I think that's what saved my life. I think, you know, my lawyer wasn't too happy about me, you know, being honest with the cops and what happened, but it saved my life, you know, and it's been a challenge. It's not the most luxurious story. I mean, you know my story, you know, and I'm more than willing to talk to anybody about it. If there's anybody out there who has questions or wants to reach out to me, feel free. My story is very unique, but I'm not afraid to talk about it. I think it's important. I think it's a bigger issue out there than we actually are willing to face and talk about. You know, but I haven't had to drink a drug over any of it. You know, I think I've been fired from like 4 jobs, you know, in my sobriety. I mean, I went to jail at 18 months sober. And I stayed sober. You know, and I try to wake up every day and ask God for help. I try to wake up every day and show up for the people in my life. You know, I have a lot of people right now really struggling out there. You know, I mean, I'm struggling myself. I'm sober, but I'm struggling too. Like, it's not all unicorns and rainbows and cupcakes, you know, but it's the messy stuff that helps us grow. You know, it's the messy stuff that people need to hear. You know, I was really good at coming into my early recovery and showing up at meetings and all like, yeah, everything is great, you know, when I was a total mess. Total mess, you know, and
I always liked it like when I first started to go to meetings and I couldn't really get sober, or, I really appreciated the people that got up and spoke and they were like, my life sucks
Yeah.
and I suck at recovery, but like I'm sober today and I'm like managing that.
Right.
That was a lot more relatable for me as someone that was sitting there that couldn't put 2 days together, right?
Right.
So to hear that and be like, okay, maybe I can stay sober, felt a little bit more realistic than like, the person that, yes, you want the person that gets up there and everything's on fire. Great.
Right.
That's inspiring too. And we all strive for that. But the person that can really be real
Right.
is my favorite person in the room,
But that's what's real. Is
Yeah.
We all struggle. We're all going to have crap days. Nobody's going to have a perfect life, and if we can speak that truth, if we can raise our hand and say, I'm struggling, I'm not doing well, that's when people hear it. That's when we help people.
Yeah.
For
sure.
And it's scary. Like learning to do that is a really scary thing.
Yeah. And I mean, but that's what we learn in recovery. That's what we learn in the program. We learn how to be like almost a little too vulnerable, because we learn that like it's okay to like overshare like really like shameful parts of your story, which, for a lot of people, we kind of have to learn when it's appropriate to share those things and not.
Like,
yeah.
Ooh, let me tell you a story.
Right. Exactly. Not everyone can handle that. But I did learn to be vulnerable in the halls, right? And I learned how to walk through fear and how to grow from being uncomfortable. And like, even coming on here, this show for me, was something that like, I just walked through that. Right. And realizing that you're not going to, the first time you come do something, you're not going to be the best at it, right? And like, just because you do something you do it well doesn't mean that you have to change the world with it, right? We don't have to revolutionize everything. Like we can just be okay and we can be worth it as we are, And
I mean, that's what I struggle with the most is that not mundane, I don't like to use that word, but the ordinary. Like we have got to find a way to find the beauty in the ordinary because we have always lived these lives of chaos, right? And for me, like performing and all that, like I can create chaos wherever I go.
Right.
But learning to be still in that ordinary.
Yeah.
Like me and my boyfriend are about to move into an apartment together. It's like, oh my God, like I can't do this. But like being able to talk to him about that and walking through that together, knowing that, okay, I'm not doing this alone. I'm not walking through this fear, and I don't have to run from it.
And you don't have to like pretend that it's not there. Yeah, like run from it. You don't have to like put the mask on.
Because what did we do?
Right?
We ran from it.
Right.
That's all we did.
Right.
And there are many times where I want to run.
Yeah.
But if I say it out loud, then it doesn't have that power over me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I want to run for sure.
Right.
I'm not going to today.
Right.
And that's all that matters.
Right. And the thing about meetings that people don't understand, right, is there is so much power. I don't know why, right? But when you go into a room full of people and you speak your truth, it makes you hear it, like admit it to yourself that much more. Like you're able to like see the reality so much more clearly,
Or when you hear someone tell your truth, like when you're sitting in the room and you're like, oh,
right.
like that, just that like moment where God is using that person to reach you. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a meeting, I'm like, ugh, why am I here? I don't need this crap. I don't know. These people are crazy. And then I hear my story or I hear something that's like, shut up, Jacob.
Yeah.
You're not here just for yourself either.
Yeah.
You're here for other people.
Yeah.
It's not all about Jacob.
Yeah. I had a moment like that. We'll wrap up real soon, but that I, had COVID recently, right? In this isolation, I hadn't been like on a meeting like in forever. And I haven't been on a Zoom meeting in a very long time, but I logged onto a Zoom meeting and it was like 4 women in a row that shared and just like everything that I needed to hear. And it was like, I just looked up and like shook my head because it was just like undeniable that like God wasn't speaking to me through those people. And like, I'm not super religious and like super devoted to Christ. I wouldn't call that my truth, but like, I believe in a higher power and it's undeniable that the universe works somehow and that something out there is like working through us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So unless you have anything else to say, I guess we can go out on that.
Sure. Yeah. You guys also got a little present
Yes.
for you.
Oh yeah. Jacob's got a video attached. So the name of the video is
A Better Ending, which is something we all deserve.
and it's you and yes, great title. And you and your band Sonic
District. Check it out, guys.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
Late at night, out in the cold, walking all alone. I wanna be outside, recounting memories down this road, and go away till I disappear, and overcome all the pain and tears. There's more to life than this, and it's so unreal. Won't you come with me? There's more to life than this. I'll just remember the laughter and the friendships. I'll write a better ending, and I will feel better when I sail away from here. I'll write a better ending. Following the stars, I find my way, 'cause by now I'm lost. My mind is all made up. It's time to heal all these broken bones. A fire burning up in the sky. I'm in the wild, time is running out. Letting go, perfect love comes and goes. Let's come undone until we right our wrongs, and it's so unreal. Won't you come with me? There's more to life than this, and it's so unreal. Won't you come with me? There's more to life than this. There's more to life than this. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jesse. Gotcha. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.